And good evening, everyone. I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, the breaking news. The president admits his initial ISIS strategy was wrong. Tonight, President Obama ordering a review of U.S. policy on defeating ISIS and also saying Syrian President Bashar al Assad must go. A major development tonight as the president is actually in the middle of a trip to Asia. Senior White House correspondent Jim Acosta is traveling with the president, but I want to begin with our foreign affairs correspondent, Elise Labott, who broke this news. And Elise, as this day was going on, no one expected this at all. This is a significant admission.
Well, Erin, the administration has been talking about this for weeks. You know, many of the president's top national security advisors, including Secretary of State John Kerry, have been calling for a more robust strategy with Syria. And because the president and his advisors are, they're coming to the realization that you aren't going to defeat ISIS without a plan to get rid of President Assad, who the U.S. and many allies see as the reason ISIS was able to gain strength. It seems that they've realized the initial strategy to confront ISIS in Iraq first, take on Syria after that, needs re-examination. The administration had hoped that would give time for the U.S. to vet, train, and arm a moderate rebel force who would then go after ISIS and eventually Assad. Officials telling me they realize now they don't have time for this so-called Iraq first strategy because this opposition is beleaguered. It's battling two fronts, the regime and ISIS. And if you wait until the Iraq piece is finished, the opposition could be obliterated by that time that the U.S. pivots.
There is, though, at least such a lack of intelligence in Syria. There is such a lack of, all right, get rid of Bashar al-Assad. Fine, take him out tonight. What the heck replaces him?
Well, this is the problem, Erin. You know, there is no viable alternative right now to Assad. The opposition's still dysfunctional, unorganized, can't get their act together. But there are discussions about how the administration and others, allies, can work on some kind of political transition. Secretary of State John Kerry, General John Allen, the envoy to the coalition, is talking about, definitely working on a political transition. There's also talks about expanding and accelerating the train and equip program. But, Erin, as you know, the problem is the vetting of those rebels hasn't even started. So it's going to be very difficult to talk about expanding a program when you don't even have people to train.
It sure is. And, of course, even if they speed it up, the time frame they gave, 9, 12 plus months? I mean, even speeding that up is still not fast at all. All right, Elise Labott, thank you very much. Elise broke that news. Jim Acosta is with the president in Asia, in Myanmar, tonight or tomorrow morning for you, Jim. Look, the president's on a major trip to Asia. As Elise says, he's been getting a lot of criticism for his policy. Why would he announce this right now, tonight?
Well, we should point out the president is not announcing a change with respect to his strategy for dealing with ISIS in Syria. I did hear from a National Security Council spokesperson who said there is no change in strategy when it comes to Syria. They do believe that Bashar al-Assad has to go. And one thing that they do point out is that the president and his national security team, they're constantly reviewing their strategy for dealing with ISIS in Syria. And the White House has been pretty upfront about this, Erin, in the last several weeks. They do understand that there is sort of a fundamental weakness when it comes to their strategy in Syria because they don't have that trained, vetted, moderate opposition on the ground in Syria that can really take the fight to ISIS. They have a little bit a better advantage in Iraq where they have the Iraqi security forces. That's why you see the president doubling those efforts, doubling the number of troops heading into Iraq to advise and train those Iraqi security forces. But they do recognize they have a problem in Syria, and so that might be part of this process, this ongoing review in terms of what they're doing with ISIS in Syria. But, the president is here in Asia. He's here in Myanmar today. He's been trying to rebalance his foreign policy on Asia, and he's been having to put that on the back burner from time to time because of things like ISIS. And so the president will obviously see this story and have to take a look at it as he's traveling this part of the world. But, Erin, no question about it, this is going to be a big issue for the president to deal with when he gets back to Washington. The administration is asking Congress for a vote to authorize military force, and there's going to be a big debate about the president's strategy for dealing with ISIS both in Iraq and in Syria. There
certainly is, because I guess just to state the obvious to our viewers, you don't order a review of your strategy if you think it's working. Thanks so much to Jim Acosta.